Two of the concepts I'm going to talk to you guys today are finding the interesting balance between confidence and humbleness, as well as learning to stay hungry but be content. I'm a firm believer that life is full of paradoxes. If you don't know what the word paradox means, it's essentially that two opposites exist at the same time. And I firmly believe that because there are so many examples of it, two of which I'm going to give you guys today. So some of you may look and see me standing up here, and maybe I appear very confident. I've worked on that over the years, but I want you all to know, so when I was younger, I was strange, meaning I was raised in a small town. Any of you from a small town? Only a couple people. So you guys know how very singular-minded people can get in small towns. Well, I was in a small German Protestant Christian town, and I was a Jewish vegetarian. Now, those aren't strong parts of my identity, but when you're a little kid, other kids make them strong parts of your identity, through teasing and the like. And over time, I learned to not let it bother me, but it definitely affected my levels of confidence when I was younger. One thing that was interesting is when I was really little, I was an attractive child, I guess you could say, without making that as weird as possible. And then I hit ninth grade, and I got all the acne, like all of it. And it was funny because that was around the time that I finally decided I was gonna like girls, and start actually pursuing, and it just destroyed my confidence, absolutely destroyed it. So much so that I had trouble looking people in the eye when I was in high school. I was an athlete, I was good in school, so that helped the confidence. But then when I got to college, my acne kind of went away, and I began to try to rebuild my confidence. I joined a fraternity, but the only problem was I was pulling false confidence from the fraternity. And it's so interesting. I actually caught up with one of my brothers a couple months ago, and I felt almost uncomfortable talking to him because I feel like I've changed so drastically since I was in that fraternity, and who I was back then, I'm embarrassed by. I was trying to be somebody that I wasn't. I was trying to put on an image and wear masks and be cool and tough and whatever I thought other people wanted me to be. Fast forward till now, I've realized that whole journey, I was exuding false confidence with a mixture of conditional confidence. The conditional confidence came from whether I had a good or bad day of acne. The conditional confidence came from if I did well in one of my sporting events. Well, if you were to do a quick self-assessment, what confidence do you have? If there's 3 levels of confidence, false, conditional, and unconditional, I'm assuming you can assume if you don't know what unconditional confidence is, sincerely ask yourself, where are you at in most of your life? What kind of confidence do you have in most of your life? I know I still struggle immensely with conditional confidence. So what I'm going to talk to you guys today about is how to switch from conditional to unconditional confidence while at the same time staying humble. The problem with conditional confidence is obviously it's based on external conditions. Well, anything I know about life, it's what Dan Moore says in his talk he gives at universities, the only constant is change. Good guess, though. The only constant in life is change. So if your confidence is based on conditions, it's changing, which means your confidence will always be changing. And what I've learned through that journey is in order to have unconditional confidence, we have to take ourself out of the equation. What I mean by that is if you accomplish something, don't take credit for it. If you fail at something, learn from it, don't take credit for it. Now, you can do this in one of two ways. If you believe in God, I think it's very easy to do this. Utilize that to take yourself out of the equation, meaning when you accomplish something, realize that it wasn't you who accomplished it. It was people that were helping you, but in addition to that, years of growth and nurturing and the genes that you've been given and the talents that you inherited. And when you acknowledge those things, you realize that it wasn't really you who accomplished it. One of my favorite poems is a poem by Rumi. He says, I am the hole, or Hafiz, and he says, I am the hole in the flute through which the Christ's breath moves. Listen to the music. You can phrase it as being an instrument, being a vehicle, but the point is, even before this part, the 3 minutes, 5 minutes before part are very important to me because it's when I take myself out of the part. Because prior, I used to do parts for my own self-image because I was up front and everybody was watching me and look at me go. But what's interesting about that is, A, they're not that effective parts because who are you focused on? Yourself. And B, it's not only shallow, but it's short-term. It's not long-term pleasure fulfillment. The quote from Einstein, there's 2 ways to live life. One way in which nothing is a miracle, and the other way is in which everything is a miracle. And when you realize that we don't deserve anything, we've been given everything, then you understand that it is truly a blessing, and be grateful and thankful for it as often as possible. That is the only way I've found to balance confidence with humility. The confidence comes from knowing that you can put in the work, from knowing that you have God-given talents, but the humility comes from knowing that they were all given to you and that you are blessed to have them and you're grateful for them. But everybody here is going to experience highs and lows of success. And when you do what I'm talking about, and you take yourself out of the equation, the lows become lessons, and the highs become gifts, and that's all. Another challenge I've faced on the journey to success, because this stuff does get harder. It gets immensely harder. The more successful you are, the harder it is to stay humble. So much so, where you might even catch yourself being proud of how humble you are. That's ironic, right? Look at me, I'm so modest. There are so many pitfalls. I tell people often, when you start catching, I call it the ego often, Southwestern we call it Mr. Mediocrity, Christians you might call it the devil, but when you start watching that voice in your head, it's terrifying because you realize how much it runs your life. And it does it in the opposite too. If you struggle with confidence, it's because you're putting yourself in the situation too much. Somebody says something, when in reality, they're not talking about you at all, but we take it personally, it hurts our confidence. If you want the secret to one of the few keys to true happiness in life, take yourself out of all the equations. And this oftentimes affects our goals. As you become more successful, what I experienced, as you start working on humility, things that used to drive you don't drive you as much anymore. I often tell people what's ironic about reaching your goals is by the time you reach them, you don't care about them the way that you used to. So it's very interesting because you have these goals, but in order to reach the goals, you're going to have to change. And by the time you change, your initial drivers for reaching that goal might be a little bit different. So motivation is a constantly moving target. And I found this personally in my life when I met my wife, fiance and soon-to-be wife. Because a very big driver for us all, whether you realize it or not, is our evolution. It's to find a mate. It's to be the peacock with big bright feathers, and whatever that looks like in our life, it's success. It's our definition of it. And when I found her, all of a sudden, this massive chunk of my internal driving motivation disappeared because I knew that she was going to love me unconditionally, whether I don't get too fat, I get too skinny. So whether I got too skinny, I have the opposite problem most people. So whether I got too skinny or whether I wasn't making as much money or X, Y, or Z, I knew that she would still love me. So that took away some of that motivator, some of that drive. So I've learned over the years that another powerful paradox, remember we're talking about paradoxes today, how do two opposites exist at the same time? Another powerful one that I've discovered is the balance between striving for more and being content at the same time. How can you want more but be happy without it? How can you work so hard day and night, be obsessed, be focused about achieving something but not attach your self-worth to it? So how do you stay hungry? Well, the way you stay hungry is by understanding that you can make enough money, you can win enough awards, but you can never impact enough people. There is always more people to impact. That's something that will always keep you hungry. Because think about the time where you've felt the best. Maybe it was after an accomplishment, but I would bet more so it was after you felt like you had given your best. You were becoming the best version of yourself. That's when you felt not just pleasure, but you felt fulfillment, you felt joy, you felt self-love. Was when you knew you were becoming the best version of yourself. So I've realized that reaching goals isn't just about filling the bank account, it's just being happy, because I would be miserable, and so would all of you, if we sat on the couch and watched Netflix for 2 weeks in a row or longer. You'd go stir crazy. Humans need to have purpose. It's not a luxury, we need it. We need purpose in our life. That, to me, is what makes us truly happy. Now, how do we balance that with contentment? There's kind of 2 ways to accomplishment. One way is just continuing to work on your emotional development and becoming a master of emotions in a sense that Groom talked about. He never worries. That comes from exercising his emotional muscles. And another way, if it's something you're open to, is the spiritual path. And not to harp on that too much, but I believe that when you have a bigger picture in life, when you're striving towards a bigger picture in life, you can find contentment outside of material things. I am a big fan of Jesus and a lot of his teachings, and one thing that he said that really resonated with me was, "Lay not up with things of earth, where moth and rust doth corrupt, where thieves enter and steal." Meaning we get so sucked into this BS that's totally pointless, totally meaningless, because it's not about the accomplishments. It's simply about you becoming the best you. And I hope this is landing with you all, and my goal for you, my hope for you, is that you continue to remind yourself of this, because you will be berated with alternative thinking, meaning the world does not think like this. The world will berate you with marketing advertisements that tell you need to be prettier, you need to be richer, you need to have more, and it's just absolutely not true. I'm going to die, and nothing I do today is actually going to really matter that long term. That's the contentment part, but once again, balance it with, but I got 24 hours, and what else would be the point besides trying to become the best version of myself and impact the most people? Because that is what brings us our happiness. It's a very odd balance, I know, but keep practicing, and you guys will find that no matter what you accomplish, you're going to live happy, healthy, and fulfilled lives because you are focused on the right things, on being the best version of you. Thank you.